Good morning, I'm Sergeant Cheryl and I work for the G1 PSB branch. I am actually in MOB Readiness section and I'll be doing your training today on the SibXWeb Hub. To talk a little bit about the SibXWeb Hub, you'll locate that within the SibXWeb app. So what is the SibXWeb Hub? The SibXWeb Hub is going to be taking the place of the PAL. On 15 July, we will be eliminating the area for you to be able to create new transactions. So we will complete transactions in the PAL until the very last one is completed, and then after that we will simply move over into SibXWeb. We will be working simultaneously with both programs. SibXWeb will then come on as soon as full-time, and we'll be handling everything in SibXWeb once we complete everything in the PAL in that process. So how to access the SibXWeb Hub. So up at the top left-hand corner of SibXWeb, you'll see the SibXWeb Hub icon. Once you click on the SibXWeb Hub icon, it will then show you all the transactions, or all the page where you will access your transactions and create new items in SibXWeb Hub. The first process that we're going to go through is creating a new item. Over on the left-hand part of your screen, if you click Create New Item, a box will pop up for you to create your new request. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is the description of the item we're going to create. The description box is very important. It needs to be named last name, first name, last four. No other data is required in this section. And I'll show you why in just a little bit once we create our transaction.
So last name, first name, last four, no commas, dashes, nothing.
Last name, first name, last four. This will be make it easier to be able to search your transactions by name when you're looking in those descriptions. So we're going to put a test in here. I'm just going to use my name. Last name, first name, I put my middle initial, last four. Action type. Now, what's really cool about the action type in the sub-action box, let's say that I want to create a ETS transaction for EPM, but I'm in the field and I don't know who handles ETS transactions at the G1 level, and I think it's PSB. If I select PSB because I think they're the ones handling ETS, and I go to my sub-action, I can see everything that PSB does. ETS is not in that box, so therefore I have the wrong section to do my transaction. If I go to EPM and I go to my sub-action, I then can see every transaction that EPM does, so I can no longer confuse transactions like you could in the PAL. When I select Loss ETS, we can go on to the next section. The owning location is very important. The owning location needs to be the location the transaction is returned to once everything is completed on the transaction. So mine auto-populated to EPM because I created the action type from EPM. But if the owning location, if I was at the company level or troop level or battery level and I wanted to see my transaction back, once it was completed, that's the box that you would locate. The starting location. Well, let's say that I've created the transaction at the owning location, I've done all of my paperwork, and I need it to go to the next level. The starting location can then be selected or auto-filled, and you can go to the next level on your owning unit. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm just going to select a company level. We're going to use aviation, TQGEO, owning unit. When I do that, my starting unit will then allow me to select the next level for me to use. So TQGEO, Company E, correct, ma'am? Is where I want to start the location. Comment box. The comment box is where you at the company level or the MSC level or battalion level will put in the information that you need someone else to see about this transaction. So it's an ETS packet. I'm going to make sure I put real good details in there. Once you click next, the next part that comes up on the screen is how to add a service member. This is very important. Every transaction that you do in SibXWeb, if it has a soldier member tied to it, so for Samantha Sherrill, I will add myself in there as a service member the transaction is on. It'll populate on the bottom once it's added, and then you can choose next to go to the next screen. If I was creating an ETS packet at the company level, this is where I would add my ETS packet. You can drag and drop your ETS packet into this section. And then once you add your document, you can click Finish. I'm going to go in and just drag a document over for training purposes. Now you'll see that it's red. When the document is done uploading, it'll have a little check mark, and it says File Added at the bottom corner. And you click Finish. Over in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see where it says your item has been created, but it has gone away. So go to Items that you create. Nope. It's froze. And you can see that the transaction I created is right here. Now here you'll see that it's an ETS packet. It's a new transaction. The date that I requested the transaction on. The suspense date will only be used by the G1, the EPM, PSB boxes up here. The units will not set suspense dates on transactions. The last time the transaction was updated and where the current location is. If you click on the digit item number, ID number on the transaction, it'll then open up to the SibXWeb transaction for you to fill. We're going to start over on the left-hand side of this screen. The left-hand side lets you see available actions that you can take. So when I'm done with what I'm doing, I can do any of these transactions. I can send it back to the owner for retention. I can say that it's signed. I can say that it's completed or canceled. I can set a status to that it's working, that it needs to go to NGB, that it's 25% complete, so on and so forth. The current unit is where it is right now. So we created this transaction as if I was sitting in aviation. The current queue is also where it is right now because we're starting it at the company level. When I'm ready to move it, this is where I would move it. So the next level would be Battalion S1 once I was done with what I was doing. Any questions so far on that? All right, the next area is the view history on this item. So when we view history on this item, you'll be able to see where the transaction went, where it has been, and it'll give you a timeline of who's had it and what's happened. So when something was uploaded, when I put a comment in there, and so on and so forth as it goes through the chain of command. I can also track this item. So let's say that I was at the MSC level and I wanted to track any time an ETS, or I wanted to track this specific transaction on ETSs going to G1 EPM. So if I click track this item, it'll say that I am tracking it, and then on my main screen I'll be able to see this item every time I go there. I can start and stop at any time. Our comment section. Anytime you add comments into this section, it's very important you click Post New Comment. When you click Post New Comment, it'll populate in this area here. If you don't post it, it will not populate. I've run into many issues with this. I'll type the note in here, but forget to press that button, so I won't see their comments over here. If there's any other documents that you need to add to the transaction, you can do it in this area. Just drag, and it'll upload right here. You can also click on the box, and it'll take you to your desktop or your location to upload documents this way. All right, into the meat of the transaction. So there is a workflow set up already in the system that will allow the transaction to go to the next level without you having to really think about it. So right now it's at the company level, and the next level would be battalion. So when battalion receives it and they've done their job on it, they would mark this as completed, and they would put a note in here that, let's say, recommend approval for ETS. Ooh. Then we would move it, automatically moves to the next level. Now it says MSC S1, where before it had it at the battalion level. Yes. So once you do everything in here, you can then click Submit Changes, and it'll be at the next level. So we're going to open it back up. Now we're at the brigade level, has approved it, and it's now at the MSC level. And again, the MSC can mark complete. It'll auto change to EPM on this side because they're the next level. Submit changes. EPM opens the transaction. EPM sees it. They know they have to send it to education for SHRIP. They mark complete. It goes to education over on the current queue. Education sees it. They put their comment SHRIP yes, no. And then it goes back to EPM. Once EPM has done their job and has uploaded their discharge order, coded the soldier B9, they can mark this transaction as complete on their side on the workflow. Now over in the attachments and the files, there's things that have to be done before you can mark the whole SibX transaction complete. One of them is setting a retention. The retention is not on the soldier, it is on the document. So if the ETS packet needs to be set as no retention needed because you've already IPERM'd the approved steps, like you've done everything you needed, you can select set as no retention needed for the document. Now once the transaction is marked complete, I can go to, once I'm done with my actions, I can go to the available actions and put owner as completed. Now any documents that are in this transaction will be deleted no matter what within 5 days. And that's because of the bandwidth. And it's super important that as you're doing these transactions, that you're IPERMing them before you're completing the transaction.
So it's not gonna hold like the file?
It is not going to hold the documents. All right, once I put it back as the owner as completed, I can go and put it back at the company level. It'll autofill that company, and you can click Submit Changes. Of course, EPM will put that note in there, discharge order attached, service member coded B9, APPR, as approved steps has been IPERMed. This is the confirmation that everything has been done within your PAL transaction for particular this section. Post new comment and submit changes. Then it will no longer be in your queue and go back to the company level. Any questions so far on that? I want to show you one more thing within this transaction. So let's say that this is a transfer and you are in the 184th and you need approval from the 155 company commander or disapproval in order to do a transfer between units. The way that you would change that is over here on the left-hand side. You will choose MSC S1 once you've gotten your current approval. And then when you click current unit, everything will be grayed out except the MSCs. So let's say I need to get 155 approval. I can scroll down to the 155, select it, put a comment in there, chain of command approval or company commander approval for the transfer. And of course you'll have the documents attached in there for where the soldier's going from that company level. You can post the new comment, submit changes, and then it'll populate in the 155 box. When the 155 is done with it, they'll click MSC level and return it back to the unit, to the MSC that it corresponds with. When you go back to your main screen, you'll see that on the items you've created, you can see the current status now as completed. And if it was still active, it would show active. Now let's say that you're at the MSC level and you want to see all ETSs or all requests for fills that are sitting at EPM. You can click under the G1 EPM box, and you can go to action or sub-action requested and select which actions that you want to see, how many are at that level. So let's say that I want to see requests for fills that fall underneath me. I can click request for fill, and anything that my MSC or under downline has uploaded and has gone through, I'll be able to see that. The 184th will not be able to see the 155. Troop Command will not be able to see the 184th. This is strictly within the permissions that you have as those transactions come forward. And that's kind of behind the scenes, and that script is written in. Now if I wanted to go to my unit and see, I can click on my MSC. And I can see anything that is MSC, and at this point there's nothing in there, and I can select the same sub-action and look at all items created. Down here, the last box we're going to talk about is the Manage Notifications box. If I wanted to track specific types of transactions, I can manage the notifications for those transactions here. So let's say that I want to know anything that comes to G1 PSB that is a tour duty request, and I want it to alert me when it arrives at PSB. I can add the notification, and I will then receive notifications of any tour duty request that arrives at the G1 PSB. At the MSC level, you can do the same thing. You can track ETSs, requests for fills, whatever the transaction is that you want to track when it reaches a certain level. You can also put an expiration date in there that'll expire, so it won't track it after that time period. Any questions?
Send you an email.
Does it send an email or just an alert through SibXWeb, ma'am?
Just the alert.
It's just the alert through the SibXWeb.
It's important to check it.
So it's really important to check daily on your transactions to view alerts and things that are going in there.
So I have a question. Is working a transaction, can more than one person see that transaction? Or is it just assigned to that person that's working it at that time?
If the ETS packet belongs to EPM, every soldier who is in the EPM container will be able to see those transactions. If it is at the unit level, it's unit level and under, brigade and under, MSC and under. We do have specific containers at our level because of the nature of the beast of what we work. But there's no, once you're at the unit and the company and battalion level, you'll only be able to see what falls underneath you.
Which is partly why we changed civics permissions before we moved to the hub.
And Ms. Smith noted that that is why we moved from that's why we give the SibX permissions for the hub and move from the PAL to SibX. Any other questions concerning the SibX hub? Anything from you, ma'am, Master Sergeant?
So they still, the units are still going to have to use the PAL for the wiki page for the examples of all the packets that's got to be built and put in there.
Master Sergeant,
That doesn't hold it in there like.
correct. Master Sergeant James said, is the unit still going to be using the wiki page for examples for the transactions that they're going to be sending up to our level? And the answer is yes. This is strictly transactions that have to be worked. The wiki page will still be up and going to show any updates or documents needed for the units to be able to put in transactions and how to put them in.
It's important to clear up for a PAL.
And that's another question. Once this comes up and the PAL's done, they can y'all gonna fix it where they can't drop anything else in the PAL?
On 15 July, the PAL will no longer be able to create new items. So if the unit has to create a new item, they have to go into SibXWeb to create that item. We will be working simultaneously through SibXWeb and the PAL to make sure transactions are being completed together at the same time as we're going through. And then once the last transaction in the PAL is completed, it will be taken offline.
Anything else?
All right. If there's not anything else, this concludes the training. Thank you all for attending.